In this tutorial, we'll learn how to use the Content Coding with Dictionary plugin for the Butter text analysis software. What this plugin will do is scan your texts and then code them for words that belong to different word categories based on some kind of a predefined dictionary that you have. Now, if you're familiar with software like Linguistic Inquiry and Word Count, or LIWC, or RiotScan, or any number of other programs that score texts for word categories, this is conceptually doing the same thing. Now, for this example, we'll look at some TED Talk text that I have. So these are just transcripts of regular old TED Talks in English, and we'll go ahead and use the plugin to score the texts for different word categories. So the first thing we want to do is load in our texts, and we'll tell this plugin where our texts are. And then if you notice, this plugin takes tokens. So you need to tokenize your texts before you attach this specific plugin. We'll use the Twitter Aware Tokenizer in this case. Now, if you're scoring something like Chinese texts and you have Chinese dictionary, a Chinese language dictionary, you'll want to use a different tokenizer. Then we'll go ahead and attach the Content Coding with Dictionary plugin. And just to set things up for later, we'll include the Save Output to CSV plugin. And we'll name this file Content Coding Outputs. Now, when we go ahead and look at the settings for this plugin, you'll notice there's a lot of stuff here already. So this plugin comes with a number of dictionaries built into it that come from other research. This includes things like the Agency and Communion Dictionary that I published with this group not too long ago, and things like Harvard General Inquirer Dictionary, the LCM Dictionary by Yitai Sei and his colleagues, and so on. So out of the box, this will score for all of the categories that belong to all of these different dictionaries. And when you click on the different dictionaries, you get a bit of additional information. For most of them, this just includes the citation of where the dictionary came from, and then a prefix, which tells you what to expect in the output. So for example, for the Attention Focus Dictionary, all of the output that is generated by this plugin for this dictionary will have AFD underscore at the beginning of the variable names. So let's go ahead and just run this as is and just give you a sense of what the output looks like. Now, by default, this plugin will give us percentages, so it will tell us what percentage of the words in every text belong to each category. Now, this is pretty standard these days, so essentially these numbers are normalized by the number of tokens, or approximately the word count in each text file. Now, that being said, there are other settings that we can change to give us just the raw frequencies in each file, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. Now, you notice that this is going pretty slowly. There's about 2,000 files in there, and it's kind of crawling along at a slow pace. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this so that we can just look at the output. The reason why it's going so slow is that we're coding for many, many dictionaries, many of which contain well over 10,000 words. And so what the plugin is doing is going to each text and then applying each dictionary individually to the text. So we're really scanning for dozens of dictionaries all at once for each text. Now, if you want to speed things up, you can uncheck the dictionaries that you don't want and just choose the ones that you do want to code for. So let's go ahead and take a look at what this output looks like. You can see it made it through about 25 texts, and the output file is very wide. We have 814 different variables that were scored for each text, roughly speaking. So this includes things like absolutist words, the big two categories of agency and communion from that specific dictionary, and so on. So let's look for, say, the body type dictionary by Wilson, whose dictionary is based off of the work of Seymour Fisher, one of my favorite psychologists of all time. So if we go down, we should be looking for output that begins with BTD. That's the prefix for the output, body type dictionary. So if we scroll down a little bit, we can see we have the body type dictionary categories. This includes things like the total number of barrier words, the total number of container words, and so on. Now again, these scores out of the box are normalized by token count. So what this is telling us is that in this first text, approximately 1.28% of all the words were identified as barrier words by the body type dictionary. Now the specifics of creating a dictionary and validating your own dictionary are very much beyond the scope of this tutorial. However, there are a number of really good tutorials out there, including several YouTube videos by Jamie Pennebaker that talks about the ideas behind creating and validating a dictionary. So this is all well and good. We can score a bunch of different things using these built-in dictionaries, but we can also load external dictionaries. If we have our own dictionary file that we want to use, then we can load that up here and add it to this list for this analysis. So I'm going to show you how that works really quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck all. So we're not going to use any of these dictionaries anymore. And instead we're going to load an external dictionary. Now here I have a dictionary file that is Hogenrod's Metamorphosis lexicon, which I've turned into a LIWC dictionary. And it follows the typical LIWC dictionary format, where we have a header that specifies the categories, and then we have the word to category mappings. Now I have another tutorial out there on how to create a custom LIWC dictionary, and I'll make sure to include a link to that in the description for this video. Just know that you can use any LIWC dictionary, and that this plugin for Butter can code not just single words, but can also code for wildcards and multi-word phrases. So all of those things are allowed in this plugin. So if we want to load up this dictionary and use it with this plugin, we simply click Load External Dictionary, and we choose the dictionary file that we want to use. Assuming that it's formatted correctly and that everything looks good, we'll see this message that our dictionary has been successfully loaded. And you'll see that it's also added to this list here, and it's checked by default. And it tells us that this is a user-loaded dictionary. Now let's say we want to just scan this as is. So we'll leave everything else the same. I'm going to go ahead and delete our old output file. And we'll run this so it's just scoring with Hogenrod's Metamorphosis dictionary. And this should go much more quickly because we're just using one dictionary to score all of the texts. And I'll go ahead and cancel this so that we can take a quick peek at the results. And here we go. You can see that, again, we've scored percentages of the text that belong to each one of the categories that are in this dictionary file that we loaded up. So, for example, we see that about 1.5% of this first text here are metamorphosis words, words about transition and change. Now, if we want to get raw category numbers for this, if we don't want to know the percentage, but want to know the precise number of words detected by the dictionary that belong to each of the categories, we can do that by going into the settings and checking this box, provide output as raw category frequencies. So let's go ahead and do that really quickly just so you can see what that looks like as well. And here we go, the same output, but now we have the actual counts rather than the normalized frequencies. Now, which one you use will depend a bit on your research question, whether or not you're going to control for things like word count or token count in other ways. There's no objectively correct answer to this. Normally, if you're not sure, I would recommend leaving it as its default and normalizing these by the token count, or in other words, getting percentages as your output. And that's it. That's how you use the Content Coding Dictionary plugin for the Butter text analysis software.